Okay, I'm here in Tupelo, Mississippi, and behind me is the house where Elvis Aaron Presley was born. And I guess they moved it here or something. It's a super small house. But that raises the question, many people ask the question, was Elvis Presley saved? Was he a Christian? Well, if he was the worst Christian that ever lived. What a horrible testimony that the guy had. Playing rock and roll. Rock and roll is really bad. Rock and roll is nothing more than fornication. That's where the word comes from. But here we are at the house. Many people know who Elvis is. And when I was a kid, we had a lot of Elvis's records. We had the old record player. But we had all of his records of hymns and him singing hymns. And he loved to sing gospel hymns. So a lot of people wonder, well, was the guy saved? Well, if he was, like I said, they called him Elvis the Pelvis because he was always dancing. I remember he was on that show, one of those old shows, and they wouldn't show his waist because he'd move back and forth, and they were like, oh, it's shocking for him to dance, and dancing's evil. And what a man who changed a generation for bad, not for good. But a lot of people say, well, he was saved man, though. He was saved. Well, I know he used to call Carl Hatch on the phone, a famous evangelist, and say, preach to me, preacher, preach to me. And I know he used to be on drugs. Matter of fact, he overdosed on drugs. So some people theorized that he was saved, and he felt so bad about his sin that he took drugs to forget about it. So maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But I think it's an interesting testimony. We talk about our testimony and what a great testimony we're supposed to have for Christ. And if that man was a saved man, he didn't have a testimony for Christ. And he died in the worst way you could die. And a lot of people may know or may not know, but Elvis Presley died in 1977, and he died on the toilet, and he died of a drug overdose. But they say that when he died, he was reading the Bible. So some people think maybe he was a saved man, and maybe he was just doing wrong and living in sin and his backslidden, but he died reading his Bible. Now, one of the things that Elvis did, he had his little mob. They called themselves the Memphis Mob, and they'd run all over Memphis, and they loved to have this little saying, and their little saying was taking care of business. And they like to talk about TCB. He had an airplane and it said TCB on it with the what do you call that? A lightning bolt. Well, here's the testimony of Elvis Presley. Here's how he died. He used to call himself the king of rock and roll. They called him the king. Well, the king died on his throne on the toilet, taking care of business. What a horrible thing. What a horrible way to go. But that's the way he died. And today we still don't know if he was a Christian. Don't know if he led anybody to the Lord. We know he died reading his Bible. But was he saved? If so, what a horrible testimony for Christ. He was more of a worldly man singing worldly music than anything else. So that's Elvis Presley. And here's the thing here about how he died. Born in January 8, 1935 in this house, built by his father. Presley's career as a singer and entertainer redefined American popular music. He died August 16, 1977. Taking care of business. But did he take care of the Lord's business? No, he didn't. That's why I want to be a good Christian. I want to have a good testimony. So when I die, God forbid, I hope the Lord comes first at the rapture, but people will know, hey, that Breaker fella, he was a guy that was a real Christian and telling people about Jesus. So here's the house right there. That's interesting. All right, well, this sign tells it all, doesn't it? It says Elvis Presley revolutionized popular music by blending the blues. Now, what is the blues? Well, the blues was a lot of people sitting around singing, but many of the old blues songs are very wicked, and they're about fornicating, or they're about adultery, and they're about doing evil things, getting drunk and things like that. So my grandparents told me the blues, you got to watch out for that. That's the kind of people that don't go to church, that don't love God and the Bible. They're out carousing and, late hours of the night doing bad things. But he took blues and he mixed it with country, pop, and gospel music. So what is that? Well, that's taking the things of God and mixing it with the things of the world. And that's something that Elvis did, is he mixed things that shouldn't go together. The things of the world shouldn't mix with the things of God. And Elvis was a great gospel singer, but he mixed that with other kinds of music that shouldn't have been mixed with. So that's an interesting thing to see. Now over here is the church. So let's go look at this. This is the church that he would have gone to, they said. They took the church that his parents went to and they moved it here. And it's Assembly of God Church. Now, if you know the doctrine of the Assembly of God Church, well, they follow the early book of Acts and they don't rightly divide. And they take the things for the Jews and try to force it to us today, like the signs and the wonders and the speaking in tongues. So it's a church also that says you can lose your salvation, which isn't biblical. So there's a lot of false teachings in this church, but this is the kind of church that he would have gone to when he was a kid. So maybe that's one of the reasons why it was so easy for him to go into the world, because of the false teaching, the false doctrine. Let's look around some more. All right, so here's another thing here. Talked about how he was introduced as the hillbilly cat. The hillbilly cat. Country music, it says. Country music in the old days used to be country music. It was country folk singing songs. Today, country music's pretty wicked. You listen to average country music station, it's all about drinking and doing bad things with people when you're not married and stuff like that. Well, they have a joke that if you play country music backwards while you get your wife back and your house back and your car back, it's all about, oh, I'm so sad I lost this, that, and the other thing. But Elvis got a start as a country singer, but he began to sing about some evil things. And some of his songs aren't that nice. They're singing about fornication and evil things. But a lot of his songs were hymns, gospel hymns. And my mom loves to hear him sing, gospel hymns. But Elvis was a great singer, had a talented voice. But he could have used it for the Lord, and he didn't. He used it for fame, and he used it for many things. And because he became a worldly person, it led to drugs. And Johnny Cash also. Johnny Cash was someone that sang with Elvis. And Johnny Cash got really bad into drugs. So you need to watch out for the world. You need to stay away from drugs. And drugs are killers. A lot of people that got into becoming a popular secular singer of secular evil songs have died early. Jim Morrison and the guy from Nirvana and Janis Joplin and many names that people know. Hendrix. They all overdosed on drugs and they died. So drugs are awful. And so this is the gateway that the devil used to get people into a wicked world of drugs. And that just leads you down the road to more sin. And it's just very sad that people die before their time because they want to get into the world and be known by the world and get the fame that the world offers. And I remember Elvis not for the fame that he had and all the movies. He was a movie star. I just remember the beautiful old hymns that he sang.